I've been stuck. I've been really stuck before. And I know I'm not the only person that's been stuck. Stuck in my ways and stuck in certain habits. Today I was thinking about sharing some tools and perspectives on how to deal with self-sabotage and the idea of the all or nothing self-sabotage, which is not new, not my own idea, but I've had some observations and experiences within myself and observing other people that I've gotten to work with as a trainer. So I thought I'd share some ideas on how to start chipping away and breaking down this self-sabotage, specifically the self-sabotage of all or nothing. Full disclaimer, this isn't medical advice. These are just observations and perspectives and some tools that I've had success with, and maybe this will be helpful for you. All or nothing with self-sabotage is a fallacy and a form of undermining the effort that we put forward when we're trying to bring on a change. And change is never easy, even if we achieve it. And even if we're completely committed, we're going to get tested and there's going to be some resistance as soon as we try to change our way of thinking, our way of behaving, our way of being and interacting with the world. What brings on change and lasting change is going to be different for everyone. So I can only speak to what I've had experience with and what I've seen. But there are some common patterns and themes I've seen with people when they're trying to change their habits. And one of them is this all or nothing self-sabotage. Now, before I go into some of the examples I have specifically with food and exercise, I thought I'd share my opinion or what I've gathered from reading and listening to other experts talking about self-sabotage or behavior is what it is exactly. And from what I've seen, self-sabotage is actually, ironically, a way to protect ourselves. So when we're trying to step into a new way of being and a new way of life, we're trying to do something new, something foreign, something novel. And by virtue of it being something new and different, it might register as a threat or something that's unsafe. And since our whole body and brain and system is developed to protect us and for self-preservation, anything that's deemed as a threat or unsafe is going to register and it's going to come up with resistance. So self-sabotage, in terms of behavior and maybe thought and feeling, is really a mechanism of our brain and body protecting itself due to the fact that this new way of being is new. So recognizing it for a threat, I think, is really important for overcoming it. And I'm going to get to some tools I've used or I think are really helpful in general for people towards breaking self-sabotaging behavior. Now, because this is such a delicate subject and because people's lives are so varied, I could never give advice for everyone. Everyone's specific situation is going to be a little different. But I can stand on the two tools that I'm going to give you and think that they're worth a try. So before I get into those, I just want to share some examples of what I think self-sabotage can look like. One of them, let's say, is in the realm of exercise. I'm a trainer, so I try to help people get to moving their bodies even when we're not in a session. And one of the things I've struggled with myself is we start thinking very rigidly on how it's going to look, this new habit and this new way of being. And one of those is allotting a certain amount of time for when we're going to exercise. So let's say, for example, I'm going to train 3 times a week for 30, maybe 45 minutes, maybe 60 minutes. It doesn't matter. But we assign this certain amount of time. And then the day comes where, okay, I'm supposed to exercise today, I'm supposed to move my body. But I only have 15 minutes, or I only have half the amount of time due to my schedule and the logistics of it to exercise today compared to what I actually set out to do. So all or nothing, that the self-sabotage thought process and then behavior of all or nothing would dictate that, okay, I don't have 60 minutes, I only have 30 minutes, I want 60 minutes, the plan was 60 minutes, we cannot do 60 minutes, so I'm gonna do nothing. Now, this is just not gonna work, because towards building what I would call behavioral momentum, and I look at a lot of behavior as momentum. When we've been with a certain form of behavioral momentum for months or years, it's going to take some time to break this behavioral momentum and change direction to another behavioral momentum, something towards self-tending, something building, something positive, something that's actually towards our goal or our vision of a life that we want to live. If our behavioral momentum has been more in a negative way or in an avoidance way or an overly soothing and coping way, then it's going to be hard to break initially. And we have to take the little wins and avoid the all or nothing mentality. If we only have half the amount of time to exercise, or maybe start reading, start writing, eating healthier, whatever it may be, we really want to avoid this all or nothing, because this all or nothing mindset and then behavior is a very dangerous form of self-sabotage that will keep you stuck. So if we only have 30 minutes, 15 minutes, and we plan to exercise twice as much that day, but that's literally what we have in terms of our schedule or our energy, then we do it. And we do not fall into the all or nothing mentality as best that we can. And this could be applied to food too, where someone will be like, okay, I'm going to eat really well from Monday to Friday, and I'm going to do this for a month. And they get a week in, maybe 2 weeks in, maybe a few days in, maybe they only go one day where they eat well. And then they happen to slip up a bit and they eat whatever food. It doesn't matter. It's different for everyone. But you eat food that you had planned not to eat. All or nothing would have you then say, screw it. I already ate chocolate chip cookies, let's say. I like ice cream. And now I'm just going to follow through and have more unhealthy food, or more food that I had deemed unhealthy. And so instead of slipping up, bouncing right back, all or nothing will say, hey, we slipped up, and now we're just going to stay with this kind of, I don't want to say self-destructive, but hedonistic, coping, soothing behavior, whatever it would be. You're going to have your own language for it. It doesn't even really matter, because some part of us has already made a decision that we want better for ourselves, whatever that looks like. And these are the pitfalls. These are the little slip-ups, and they're only human because of what we said earlier, that the behavioral momentum and the threat of doing something new and bringing in a new kind of lifestyle, a new kind of way to look at ourselves, is going to throw off, is going to raise these alarms of, okay, this is dangerous, I don't feel safe. So we want to try to change that and just accept it when we slip up, and then go right back to the plan. Whatever the plan was, exercise here, eat like this, read a book, start writing, start a hobby, learn a language, learn to socialize, get outside more, whatever it is that you're trying to bring upon. It really could be anything. Just try to bounce back and stick to your plan. And one of the things that I found helpful for myself, and that I feel pretty confident in prescribing to most people, is raising the awareness as to when we might slip up. Because we're going to slip up, quote unquote, because we're human. And that's just how we are by design. We don't let go of old habits very easily. And for those who do, kudos to you. But a lot of people actually kind of yo-yo and ping pong back and forth. And so raising awareness as to when that is about to happen, I think really helps to try to start budging the needle and shifting out of that. So what I could recommend to people as a tool is to try to raise your awareness at the start of the day at some point, maybe not right away when you wake up, but at some point at the start of the day, have a practice where you're already raising your awareness. So that could be either meditation or journaling, depending on what you're drawn towards. But both of these can help just bring awareness to how you're feeling and how you're thinking, so that later in the day, when a self-sabotaging thought or behavior might arise, you can just step outside of yourself a little bit more and register it. And if you're just able to register it a little bit more than you were the previous day, I believe the likelihood of you potentially not doing that behavior or minimizing that behavior is going to increase. And so awareness is always a good tool. And two things that people have talked about since forever, journaling and meditation. Take your pick. It could be anything else. Could be some breathing exercises, could be some somatic practices that you can look up somatic practices online. Whatever it is that you do in the morning to raise your awareness when you're fresh, because later in the day is when you're likely to be tested. A lot of people, it's the end of the day, myself included. And that way, when we do get tested later on in the day, we have a higher chance of just catching it outside of ourselves. And then the other tool that I think is very useful, and this might not work for some people, is the idea of chunking time. So let's say I'm trying to quit or to stop drinking or smoking. It's after dinner, and I committed at some point to go through the whole day without smoking or drinking. And now it's 7 p.m., 8 p.m., what have you. Chunking time on top of awareness, I think, is really powerful. So I register that I have this itch, this craving, this desire to do this behavior that I decided not to do. And with a bit of awareness and now applying a bit of chunking of time where I'm going to say, okay, I'll do it, I'll give in, but in like 15 minutes. Or in half an hour, whatever allotted chunk of time that you think is small enough that you can just budge the needle a bit. And then you wait that 15 minutes, that half an hour, maybe an hour. That's asking a lot, I know. But if you can wait that allotted time that you give yourself, might be 5 minutes. Be like, okay, I'm gonna smoke, but just give me 5 minutes and then I'll smoke. When that 5 minutes is up, if you can just add another 5 minutes and another 10 minutes, or whatever increment that you've chosen, and just see how you feel within yourself if you just hold off a little bit longer. It might not make a difference. It might actually increase the desire to do whatever behavior you had decided not to do. That's okay. Maybe today's not the day, maybe this isn't the method. But I think a little bit of awareness practice, raising the awareness within ourselves, and then chunking a bit of time or finding a replacement behavior might help. So you can play around with those and just know that self-sabotaging behavior and thought processes and feelings through the body, I believe, are incredibly common. Many people have had them or have them right now or will have them. And it's actually there to protect us in a strange way, but we can slowly start to rewire ourselves, definitely by increasing awareness and maybe finding some other sort of behavioral or perspective shift that can help. Anyway, I'm rooting for you. Yeah, be patient with yourself and keep trying, and change is possible.